It was cool to be able to start seeing my personal brand grow, but then also my sales and my work started growing. Like reps would reach out to me and like, hey, I'd like to pick up your line. Like, can I be able to sit down and talk with you?
Welcome back to today's Medical Sales Leader. I am your host, Claire Davis, and I am so glad you're here for this conversation today with Johnny Cafaro. Johnny Cafaro is one of the foremost leaders in the medical device space. He's worked at some great big companies, he's worked at some international companies, and he's boiled his experience down for us so that we can learn just how to connect with people over social media to promote a professional brand that excites and attracts the right audience. And listen, it's not as hard as you think. So I'm thrilled to present this conversation with Johnny to you so that you can hear the reality of what it is to actually build a personal brand that can support you in your medical sales journey and make warm inroads with people before you even meet them.
1, 2, 3, 4.
To the podcast. It's so great to have everybody here. And today I have an absolutely special guest. His name is Johnny Cafaro. I am a huge fan of his, and we actually bumped into each other on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And since then, I have been amazed at watching his professional and personal brand absolutely blow it out of the water, all for the sake of helping more people in the healthcare industry. So Johnny, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Claire, happy to be here. I mean, I'm excited that you reached out and wanted to talk to me. So let's do this.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Excellent. So listen, Johnny, I want to give you a chance, if you would, for everybody here who doesn't yet know you.
Oh, I've been in the medical field. I always help people my whole life because I was born with a hip disease, like calf Perthes. And so I felt like there's got to be something in this world that like can go towards like hips or medical or help people, because I had to get a couple of hip replacements. And I found out there was a sales rep in the OR that sold these products that go into patients. I'm like, I need to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I started off my career with Stryker Orthopedics as a sales rep in Washington State, covered up in Spokane, where you live, Claire, and moved over to Tri-Cities, Yakima, all over the place. And I was like, and so I looked up some leadership qualities within our industry. And a lot of leaders had marketing and sales or marketing and engineering or something along the lines where they had more traits within their bag. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into marketing. So I looked up a company called Ortho Development, and I was a hip product manager there for a couple of years. And then moved on from there and became a global manager, then a director of sales for a company called United Orthopedics. And then just recently came back to Stryker about 6 months ago on the hip product downstream for the hip side. So, I mean, full circle, I have a Stryker hip in me and I work for Stryker and managing the hip side on the marketing. So it's awesome. I mean, it's a really cool full circle story.
Yeah, it truly is. You know, it's funny. The folks that I work with, they're all in medical sales of some kind. Yep. And I find that each of them are drawn to medical sales for very unique reasons. Yes, it's an industry that can be traditionally known for making a lot of great money, having a lot of flexibility in your life, but also it can be an incredible grind. But I find that people that stay tend to do so because they have a tie to the industry, whether it's personal or they know somebody who's gone through, rigorous cancer treatment, or they've lost a loved one, and it hits them right in the heart. And so I'm really inspired by people like you who come to the industry who have this personal tie. So, when you were a kid growing up, what did you dream that you were going to be later in life?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple. So, I mean, I wanted to be a lawyer in New York City, dressed up in a suit and tie and have a briefcase, walking up and have my driver pick me up. Or I wanted to be Tom Brokaw on MSNBC News and announce the news and all that stuff. And so I get to college and we had to go to English. And I'm like, there's a lot of writing in this, in broadcasting. I am not doing this. I do not write well. I do not want to write papers. So I'm going to go a different avenue. And
Yeah.
I just went into sales instead. So, but yeah, I mean, those are the two biggest ones that I wanted to do. And I definitely fell short from both of those.
Oh. Well, you know what? You don't give yourself enough credit. I love it about you, but I would say one thing that I see consistently, whether it's chatting with you or when I see any of your content that's online, is you are always incredibly positive,
Yep.
and you clearly know how to develop relationships. And these days, sales, if you had been in a sales training 15, 20 years ago, it would have been challenger selling and maybe an
Yep.
intro to consultative selling. If we want to be competitive today, that's dinosaur stuff,
Yep.
right? I mean, so today it's so much based on relationships, which I guess it always
Absolutely.
has been, but especially in the last 2 years, I really want to hear from you how it's changed fundamentally by the way you're able to actually get in front of people and start attracting them to you instead. Because I see you on social media and you develop this incredible, approachable, fun, and intelligent brand. And I feel like that's the way of the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, I just wanted to start talking about relatable stuff and content that was, I mean, positive and uplifting, because there's so much negativity in the world, right? I mean, you turn on the news and it's all fires, wars, anything, robberies, death. I mean, it's terrible. And so my nickname growing up is Smiling Johnny Cafaro. And so it's like, because I'm always smiling, I'm always happy, always just know it's always going to be okay. And so if I can portray that in social media and my own brand, and people can relate to it, I think that's the biggest key, because a lot of people are going through the same issues that you are, but they don't want to talk about it. But if somebody else is talking about it, then you can be able to build a network and be able to help those people. And people are going to reach out to you on like private message and say, hey, like, I really liked your post, really inspired me. Is there a way that like we can connect so you can help me through whatever I'm going through? And then vice versa. It's just like I walk into a building and people already know who I am because of that, because of my own personal brand. And like I was telling you earlier, I'd have to like create my own persona and walk into a hospital like, hey, Johnny Utah's here. Don't worry. Like, you'll remember Point Break back in the 80s. And everyone's like, wait, you live in Utah and your name's Johnny? I was like, that's perfect. But now I don't
like,
have
whatever
to really,
works.
yeah, exactly. But now I really don't have to do that, because I've built trust, I've built relationships, I've built a network that people can be like, hey, Johnny's a trustworthy guy. He knows what he's talking about, and he can be able to deliver on what he says.
I think that it's beautiful to see this new wave of companies and professionals leveraging a personal brand. But, you and I have talked many times about how it's not easy and most people don't even know where to start. So can you take us back a little bit to when you started thinking, hey, I've got a voice, I've got something to say. I have a story that I feel like will resonate with other people, and I'm going to give this personal brand thing a try. Can you walk us back there and tell us sort of how you began?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I have a story, and I wanted to be able to share a story of what happened to me and how I overcame 3 hip replacements and how to overcome losing my job and trying to figure out how to get a job. And so like all my content is relatable because everybody has gone through that. Everyone has been fired, maybe, I mean, knock on wood, some people haven't, but everybody has had injuries or issues on those kind of things. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to tell my story, and I'm not going to care who likes it or how many views I get. I'm just going to go with it and be consistent. And I just started posting, and like I would just turn my phone off and like, I don't know how this is going to take. This is kind of scary.
Well, let's check it out in the morning and see how we feel.
Exactly, right? Like turn off my phone.
Yes.
But then like it started like getting traction, and then like it was actually really cool because I was getting messages like, thank you so much, you really inspired me today. Like I really needed to hear those words today. I'm like, maybe we're on to something here. Like this could be really cool to be able to continue to sell myself, but like I'm not really selling myself. I'm just trying to tell people who I am. Right. But then that also builds people to know like, hey, I kind of know who Johnny is. Maybe I'll buy his product, or maybe I'll start talking to him, or maybe I'll be able to, I mean, work with him or collaborate with him on something because he's got something else. And so that's how I started. I just did it. And a lot of people won't start because they're scared of what people are going to think about them, or do I look like I'm like have an ego because I'm posting a picture about myself? And if you go through my LinkedIn, like every single post of mine has a picture of me, or I'm in a picture with somebody, because it's still my brand, it's still my page, but like I'm talking about something completely different. I'm not saying, hey, look at me, here I am, I'm in the suit, or look at my shoes.
Right.
But I also want to be able to make sure, like, every time I do post, like they're seeing me, that I'm coming up on their feed, I'm coming up, because not just my name, because an image goes a long way, right? Instead of just words. And so I think that's where I started. And I mean, it was cool to be able to like start seeing my personal brand grow, but then also my sales and my work started growing. Like reps would reach out to me and like, hey, I'd like to pick up your line. Like, can I be able to sit down and talk with you? Reps that would never even heard of a company that I was working for beforehand. I'm like, wow, this is good on the work front too. So it's like, if you can combine both, you got a home run, right?
Yeah.
It's just, where do you start? And I always tell people, start with a story that you went through that people can relate. And then, have a positive twist on it and how you came out of it, because that's what people want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think if I could go back to many of the stories throughout my career that made an impact on me, all of them have a business lesson, whether or not I realized it at the time.
Right. Exactly. So true.
I worked closely in support with this rep down in Los Angeles, and she was a phenomenal human being. One of those people, so funny that you were definitely shooting milk out your nose by the end of the time that you're riding along. Like, she's hilarious, effortlessly hilarious.
Yeah.
But one thing I learned from her is we would go into these accounts and we would see our competitors all over the OR. We'd see our competitors' kits in the pathology lab. It was a very, there was a lot of competition in our
Yeah, absolutely.
She knew every single person there, competition or not, on a first name basis, knew their kids' names, high-fiving them in the hallway and hanging out during lunch. And initially, Johnny, I truly didn't understand. Yeah. Initially, I thought, wait a minute. We are competitors. Like, we should be at each other's throats. And like, what's going on? And in reality, it was such a breath of fresh air, because it wasn't a feeling of intimidation.
Yeah.
Instead, it was a feeling of camaraderie and this incredible perspective that we're all making it at the end of the day. We're all busting tail. And the whole point is to help patients thrive in the end. Yeah. And you know what? I never forgot that. And who can relate to that?
Exactly. And like, that's the same thing with me, because I've been a patient, right? Yeah. And that's how I kind of approached going into sales, is like, listen, I've been a patient. I know what happens. Like, if something goes wrong, like, I know if like a tray is not ready to, or it's unsterile, or someone poked a hole in it, it causes so much animosity and craziness. And when I came in, I'm like, listen, competition or not, like, I've been a patient. I want to make sure that all the patients that I'm helping or taking care of are going to be okay. And so that's why I made friends with everybody in the hospital. I'd be like making sure, like, and at one point, like, I was helping another rep, like, hey, your case is going, do you want me to grab something for you? And vice versa. And that's what you just said, is you build camaraderie. And that goes so much further than like hate or like trying to destroy someone, because the pie is so big. Like, let's be honest, like, everybody doesn't understand. Like, I know there's territorial people and all that stuff, but if everybody can help each other, there's enough piece of the pie for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Obviously there's competition with anything that we do, but by not focusing on it and instead focusing on the end result, which is, like you said, helping patients, putting yourself either literally or metaphorically in the shoes of the end user of your product, that's powerful. And that's why I love working with medical salespeople, because all sales is great in its own industry, but there's something special about medical sales, because you really affect the livelihood of other people. If I was, I'm getting chills as we're talking.
Yeah, no, it's the same trip. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I've been the patient, I've been the sales rep, I've been on the marketing side, and it's just so much fun to be able to see all the collaborative issue. I mean, everything come together in one, like all the collateral that I'm creating right now goes out to the sales force to train the surgeons to do the surgery to make sure the patient comes out perfect, not perfect, but healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, perfect would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so, let's be real here for a second. When you're starting to build a personal brand and you work for somebody else, how did your family and friends react? Did they have a reaction? Were they skeptical of what you were doing? Were they confused? Were they even talking about it? What was that like?
Yeah, and I mean, most of my family members are on LinkedIn. I don't have any other social platform. And so
Okay.
my brother-in-law was making fun of me, like, why do you keep blasting yourself? This is a business platform. You're just talking about yourself. I'm like, I'm not really just talking about myself, but thank you. And though, I mean, at first everyone thought it was silly and everyone thought it was, I mean, what are you doing? Even I can say it now, but my ex-employer was just like not happy about me building a personal brand because you can't be a spokesperson. You can't be this, but I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just showcasing our product and what we're doing. But I feel like a lot of people are going to judge you, and you have to be okay with, like, you're made a choice and you're going to continue it. Because if you start listening to the naysayers, I mean, you're going to stop. But if you have a backbone and a strong thing, like you have a purpose, you know where you're going, nothing stopped me. I mean, like, thanks guys. I'm going to still post. You can like it if you want. I mean, at first I was just sending the link of every post that I would do to a family group chat.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, do you guys want to like this? Like, what do you guys think? And I'd get funny jokes back or whatever,
Sure.
making fun of it. But like, in all reality, like, it started catching on. And then like my brother, he started to be like, oh, this is great. We need to be able to do this. And then Cafaro's Shoes LinkedIn page has gotten bigger and bigger just because he saw the presence of what mine was doing. He's like, okay, we got to do something. And so I feel like if you do it long enough, people will follow if you're doing it correctly. And I think that's the cool thing, because you want to be a leader. You don't want to be a follower. And so if you already have a decision that you're going to do it, keep doing it. Don't stop and follow somebody else's lead.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? Listen, for anybody who's in the field out there, like, you already know how hard it is to get in front of our customers right now. I mean, the last couple of years has been, every version of a hybrid work environment. So just even beginning to start on this train, I mean, already you're putting yourself in front of your customers by using one of these. And I'm holding up my iPhone. And truly, I think that's the way that companies are starting to wake up and point as well, because I see companies even like LinkedIn, deeply investing in the creator community. I see companies out there who are focusing so heavily now on creating these internal brand champions. And it seems to be the way that business is going, because look, at the end of the day, we still want to work with people we like.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I think where we need to start adapting as companies and as individuals is that a long time ago, we never really marketed to patients, right? We only really truly marketed to surgeons or healthcare providers, or that's the marketing material that we would have. But now that everybody is on a social platform, that everybody is on LinkedIn, or their mother, their father, their grandma, they're going to look up their surgeons on LinkedIn or social platforms and check them out. And if you're a rep or an individual or sales manager and you're posting something, within like 5 square miles, you're going to get maybe 1,000 views on your very first post within that area, let's say in Oklahoma, and people are going to know who you are, right? And so that's going to be huge. Like you said, you can't get into offices as easy. You can't get into clinics as easy, but you can do a single post talking about who you are, starting the conversation, and maybe 10 surgeons saw that post that day, and then you wouldn't have had any. And so like, that's where you start creating your own brand within your own work environment as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It probably encourages other people on your team to sort of take charge as well. Have you seen that? Have you seen kind of like a influence on your team of like, okay,
Yeah.
Johnny's doing it. If Johnny can do it, I'll give it a try.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, if you look back over the last 6 months, like my boss's boss, everybody has started like jumping on the LinkedIn bandwagon. It's been awesome because you got to be able to showcase what you're doing, right? And it's fun to be able to show, hey, we're at this event, or we're showcasing this, or we're doing this. And at first, like people would only like the company page, or they would only share the company page instead of showing what they're doing. But I think everybody, as you can see, like it's gotten bigger and bigger, and everybody's starting to like come on. Like my boss didn't even have the LinkedIn app on his phone.
You're bringing everybody into the.
I know. I was like, come on. I was like, let's go. And but then it was just like after that, like he was like, I love it. This is great. It's more exposure. It shows everybody what we're doing, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you can be able to get people behind it and show what you're doing is good, I think a lot of people will follow with you.
I think so too. I think it's a rising tide lifts all ships, but also, it's less scary when you don't go it alone. For a lot of my clients, we talk about building your brand with a partner.
Yep.
You find someone who's also interested in that, and you can support each other through it. So I really like that it's catching fire with your team. I think that's awesome.
No, it's awesome.
So I don't want to glaze over something that you mentioned earlier, which was you mentioned Cafaro shoes. So so what's funny? So I know your story,
Yep.
and when I was working in the OR back in the day, I remember going into a surgical suite, and at the time I was wearing heels. I had a nice dress on, and I was working, and I was working in Roseville, California. And I walked in, and it was my very first case. I was shadowing, and they said, okay, here, put these booties on. So I had to poke the heel through the booty so I didn't slide around the OR.
Oh my goodness.
What I wouldn't have done to have a comfortable but classy pair of shoes on that were heels. So tell us a little bit about this Cafaro shoes that you've got going on.
No, so I mean, our parents dressed us up when we were little in bow ties and all that stuff. And like my brother really loved fashion, and we wanted to keep it up. And so, I mean, he started the shoe line. He's like, Johnny, let's do this. Let's create something, because we are Italian and we love our last name. So we wanted to put it on something. And so then, I mean, I was like, EJ, what better perfect industry that we're in is in the medical field. Everybody dresses up. But the issue is the comfortable shoes are ugly. I mean, I think they're hideous. And I mean, no offense to anybody that wears them, but I won't say what they are.
It's okay. I have them on right now. It's fine.
It's okay. But then also like the stylish ones are super expensive, and sometimes they're not even that comfortable. So I'm like, let's create a really stylish, comfortable pair of shoes, something that I'm going to need to wear because I've had 3 hip replacements that I can wear all day. And like, let's start pushing it. And so, I mean, as you can tell, my LinkedIn, I don't really try selling it. I just wear them. And I mean, that's how I approach it. But of course, we have our Cafaro page that sells it and does all that stuff. But it's just become more like all my surgeons are buying it. And I mean, they're supporting me in that aspect. Now we have sales reps buying them. And it's just been a really cool thing to be able to go and Italian design, made in Spain. And we have no overhead. It's a drop ship straight to you. And so it's been really cool, a little side hustle, and be able to, I mean, as you can tell, I have Nikes, but I have way too many dress shoes on top of I have a shoe problem. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Who has more shoes in their closet, you or your wife? Tell us now.
That is me by like 3 times. Yeah, it's bad.
I believe it. I believe it. Well, you know what I mean? There's nothing more important than developing solutions for the people you're working with and
exactly.
Yourself.
And style.
Okay. Right? So yes. And to jump back over to the personal branding bit one more time, I really love how you seem to have specific pillars in your content. You talk a lot about motivation and mindset. You're clearly passionate about supporting your team, and you talk about having style in the field, which is important to all of us. I mean, everybody cares, how they look, and they want to present themselves as representative of their character, but also
Exactly.
look great and feel great doing it. So, what are those pillars that you focus on, or do you create content that way with specific pillars?
No, I definitely do. So, I try to make sure that I hit each content, periodically, right? So I don't overwhelm one or another, but yeah, fashion is one of my pillars that I talk about, right? And then motivation, things that are going to like how you overcome like my hip replacements, getting fired from my job, driving to California, being on a suit on a beach, sweating.
Oh gosh, you got to tell that story.
So, I was working for a tech company and I just got a hip replacement and I was out 2 months and I get back to work and like a week later, they say, hey, we're going to have to let you go. I'm like, what? Like I just bought a house. I just had a 6-month-old baby. Just had a hip replacement. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, this is insane. And so that's where I started like, okay, there's got to be something in this industry where something with the hips, because I'm super passionate about what happened to me and I want to know more. And so I heard Stryker was the best company to work for. Stryker just kept on coming up. So then I went on medreps.com. Like this was 11 years ago. There was no resources to try to find any way to get in with Stryker.
Yeah.
And my dad was a football coach. And so I'm like, hey, Dad, can you call any of your guys? Do you think that are working for Stryker? Because they hire a lot of ex-athletes and football players, basketball players. And so he said, yeah, there's a couple guys that I know. So I started the process and I was interviewing, and then they went radio silent on me. And I'm like, my bills are piling up. This is like 4 months out of no job. I'm doing workers' comp just to be able to make some money to come in to pay some bills, put everything on credit cards. It was stressful, super stressful.
So you're the primary breadwinner. It's all on your shoulders.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so then I hear that the hiring manager is going to be in California. So I did like the crazy ex-stalker and like told my ex-wife, like, hey, listen, we got to get in the car and we're going to put everything gas on the credit card and we're going to go drive down there just to see if we can get an interview with this guy. Like I will sit there and do anything. So we drive down there and I let him, hey, coincidence, I'm in California too. Would love to meet up. This would be great. I don't hear anything for 2 days. I'm like, oh, this is not what I expected. Usually something could have happened.
Yeah.
And
were
so
you
then,
thinking like, I'm so embarrassed. Oh God. Or just like, oh, what, did he not get it?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
I felt like I knew he was busy. He was on vacation. Like I kind of felt embarrassed because like you put more money on, like, because this is what I needed to do. And I have a strong feeling and I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to back away from that feeling. And so on the third day in the morning, he texts me at like 8:45 and he's like, hey man, sorry, been at Disneyland. Do you want to make it down to my hotel by 10? We can hang out on the beach. Come in swimsuit, tank top, flip flops. Let's just hang out. I look at the clock and it's an hour away. I'm like, I have to hurry, go. So I run upstairs, go put on a suit and tie. And I drive down to the beach and hang out in the hotel. And I'm like, I'm sweating. Like it is so hot on the beach. Like I'm in a suit and tie. And he was so impressed with the fact that I came in a suit and tie that he didn't even know. He thought I was there just for fun, for vacation. And I was like, no, dude, I came to meet with you to make sure that I could be able to be face to face because the interviews have stalled. And then the next day I got the job offer and they relocated me to Washington State. But little did I know, a guy interviewed with Spencer right after, and he had 7 years of medical experience and he had a tank top and flip flops and shorts on.
Right.
And it just showed how much more I wanted it and wanted to be there. So when people say like, I don't have medical sales experience or I don't have experience to get into the industry, you don't need it. Like if you show the person how bad you're willing to work and how bad you're willing to just get the job, they know you're going to be a hard worker once you have the job.
Yeah.
So that story really projected and changed the whole career of my life. Not just career of my life, but like showed me like what I have deep inside me to succeed and like prevail, because I had nothing to fall back on after that. If I didn't get that job, it'd be like back to medreps.com, I guess.
All the chips were in. I love that story, Johnny. I just feel like there are so many ways to stand out.
Yep.
And time again, you show us that whether it be online, whether it be in person, whether it be in the OR, being relatable and going that extra mile wins.
Yep.
And it can win,
Oh, yeah.
and so, for anybody listening, I hope that this really encourages you to see, Johnny is the proof of, if you really want something and you can find a way to connect with those decision makers in a different way, to get out in front of that train and make yourself be seen, opportunity awaits for those who can help themselves stand out. And I think you've done it. I think you've done it over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't keep posting stuff like that, we wouldn't ever connected, or we wouldn't be on this podcast right now. And so you are going to stand out. I mean, listen, you're going to get haters. You're going to get the naysayers, but you just got to be able to have your own voice in your own head. Say I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep going, because like you just said, you create that powerful brand and everybody knows who you are or what you represent, and it builds trust, it builds dependability, reliability. Then it's going to go a lot longer for you, not just in your personal life, but in your career and everywhere else, because you're building more confidence in yourself as well. Because when you have success through your personal brand, you're just gonna be like, I want to keep going. This feels great. Let's go.
And there's no better place to do it than on LinkedIn.
Right? Exactly. That's the only place.
I'll tell you what, it's so positive over there. I feel truly blessed being on there. So listen, Johnny, I mean, I know that you are all about relationships and positivity. So if somebody wants to follow you, find out more about you, find out more about Cafaro Shoes, where would you like them to seek you out and connect with you online?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I mean, just search my name on LinkedIn. Love to connect, help out anybody possible. And then Cafaro Shoes on Instagram. CafaroShoes.com is our landing page, and then Cafaro Shoes on LinkedIn. I mean, all aspects you can be able to get a hold of me. So it'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that we link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for everybody listening here. Johnny, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. I love talking to you. And I know that the impact that you have, the positivity you're putting out there and with your personal brand is just contagious. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Really.